So really, my getting involved in home brewing, it was the starting point really around COVID. So I was taking that time, I got involved with home brewing, really fell in love with it and continued to grow it from there, learning more as much as I can and improving that. And at the same time, I was working in healthcare, and I felt like it really was difficult to move up within the company there. I was accomplishing certain things, and it was just kind of like hitting this wall. So felt like it was time for a change. And timing wise, I ended up coming across the local winery that was hiring, and I applied and ended up getting the position. So it was the factor that things just weren't working out anymore to advance my career within healthcare and then pursue my interest in homebrewing.
My guest today is my LinkedIn friend, Chad Huss, and he is the founder of fermentedcuriosities.com, which is a website that is partially his personal blog, but also is an amazing resource that's packed with recipes on how to design really delicious cocktails and also some information on how to brew your own beer at home. Now, that's a really cool hobby in itself, and it comes after him spending 2.5 years in the wine and spirits industry, first on the production side, then on the warehouse side, and also a little bit of time as a sales manager. The cool thing about Chad is that his story doesn't start there. It actually starts in another industry. So I'm very interested to see how and why he decided to make the shift into beverage. But first, I want to start off the show by welcoming Chad. Thanks for being on the show, and tell us a little bit more about fermentedcuriosities.com.
Hi, Wes. Thanks for having me. So, with Fermented Curiosities, I started that a couple months ago. The idea was to create a blog to talk about my interests such as fermentation, homebrewing, winemaking, and cocktails. Basically, anything that involves fermentation. So, like, that's where I started getting into sourdough bread and yogurt making, cheese making, and so on.
Not necessarily just doing beer, but also there's other things that you can ferment, I guess. I hadn't really thought about that before. I mean, I saw the recipes for the beer, but you're doing other things as well?
Yeah, I'm doing other things as well. So I'm making sourdough bread, like I said, and a lot of different baked goods that use like a sourdough starter. And then I'm currently working on cheese making as well and experimenting with that. And anything else that uses like a bacterial culture or yeast, such as kimchi, sauerkraut, and so on. So it's been kind of an interesting thing. Part of the Fermented Curiosities is I'm also learning as I go for part of this. So it's a learning experience for me, and I can share that with the people that follow me on there. They can see my process, what mistakes I make, and we can both all learn from that at the same time.
Are you doing any video, maybe YouTube or any type of shorts, TikTok, Instagram?
I am on social media, so I'm on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram. It's all just text blogs right now. There's been a very little bit of video, but that's something I'm looking to add is more video once I have the time here. I want to do more in-depth video explaining what I'm working on and do like project updates and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be super interesting. If you ever need any help as far as like creating the videos or what kind of equipment you may need. I mean, a lot of stuff can be done on your phone really now anyways. But if you need like any editing tips or any like resources on how I do my videos, I'd be happy to help you. We can chat offline
Okay.
about that. Be happy to help you.
Yeah, I'll contact you about that.
You started in healthcare, which I think is interesting. Did you ever imagine that you would end up in the beverage industry?
No, no, not in the beginning. When I was in healthcare, I was really planning on staying in healthcare. I worked for a company that supplies medical equipment and services in the healthcare industry, and I was there for 13 and a half years. So when I started there, really what I was looking to do for my career goal was to get into biomedical equipment technician repair. So doing more repairs on IV pumps and x-rays and all the wide range of medical equipment there. But at the time I was working in like the Green Bay, Appleton area of Wisconsin, there wasn't really a school that had that program there. So I wasn't really able to pursue that. But then I moved or transferred to Eau Claire and worked at a hospital on site here and decided to go on to school, but to take a different career path. I was more interested in business management and marketing. And I felt like that was a more general approach that I could use anywhere within healthcare or if I decided to go into another industry. So
So same thing. I mean, you went to school for business management, but then also you kind of, I guess that stepping stone was being in a warehouse first. So what kind of warehouse beverage production plant were you in? Is that where you started?
Yeah, when I started in Beverage, I worked for a local winery and distillery here in Eau Claire, and that role is the production manager. So I was responsible for making the wine and the spirits and managing the warehouse as well. So shipping, receiving, rearranging the warehouse to move the product around, and that's really where I started within the beverage industry.
Did your skills in medical, repair of medical equipment help kind of parlay into working on the lines and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, really, with healthcare, there's a lot of cleaning that was involved in sanitation. So, I was able to take that skill and put it over into when I switched over to beverage. So, cleaning the fermentation tanks and of our equipment was really detailed and making sure everything's sanitized. One of the skills that I was good at when I was in healthcare and then brought it over was catching the areas that really weren't being touched that could potentially lead to spreading possible contamination within the hospital. So I took that and applied it to my cleaning and sanitation process at the winery there, as well as the maintenance, working my maintenance experience working on some of the medical equipment. I was able to take that to work on some of our electrical equipment and maintenance around the winery as well.
What made you decide to make the switch? You seem like you were on a really good path. You spent 13 years in one industry and then all of a sudden you decided to make a switch. What was that main catalyst, I guess, that made you want to move on?
Well, it was a couple different things that were happening at the same time. So really my getting involved in home brewing, it was the starting point really around COVID. So I was taking that time, I got involved with home brewing, really fell in love with it and continued to grow it from there, learning more as much as I can and improving that. And at the same time I was working in healthcare and I felt like the it really was difficult to move up within the company there. I was accomplishing certain things and it was just kind of like hitting this wall. So felt like it was time for a change. And timing wise, I ended up coming across the local winery that was hiring and I applied and ended up getting the position. So it was the factor that things just weren't working out anymore to advance my career within healthcare and then pursue my interest in homebrewing.
Nice. So after spending time on the production and warehouse maintenance side, were you also on the sales part of things too?
Yeah, so I took over sales at the winery there. At first, I had sales experience in healthcare because I did have an inside sales role, and that was my very first sales role. So I learned a lot from doing that, making phone calls, asking questions to learn more about the person I'm talking with and their business, and trying to find a good fit for where we can fit in and problem solving and building that rapport. Because part of that selling is getting the person to like you as well. You're not just selling the product, you're kind of selling yourself because they have to like you in order to buy from you. So I was taking some of those techniques and then applying them to the sales role when I started getting involved at the winery there. When I started doing it with the winery, it started off with merchandising. I was just merchandising, going to current account, just checking the accounts, making sure I'm restocking the shelves, doing the facings, and just talking a little bit to.
Were you all in like grocery and convenience, or did you also do like on premise? What kind of accounts were they?
So
Okay. You also said that you worked on growing the business. What did that look like? How did you identify opportunities to grow the business? How did you figure out that you could do that?
Well, after doing the merchandising and working with the current accounts and improving our relationships with them and working on asking for different things like getting displays or more shelf space, bringing in new products. Eventually, the owner of the winery brought me and our front of house manager in, and we were both helping with the merchandising, and he wanted to see what we could do with sales. So then he sent us out to try and approach new accounts and see how we would do with that to grow the business. And I ended up being very good at it. So that's what got me in there and I took over the sales there.
What did you like about that? Did you like warehouse or sales better?
Sales better than warehouse. The sales I like that I'm more on my own. I get to be more creative and walk into places, learn more about their businesses and build those relationships with people. It's a little more creative, I feel like, and more on my own compared to being in production in the warehouse. It's more just following the laid out instructions and the standard operating procedures. So I didn't really get to be as creative, really, as what I am
I
with the
got you. So,
sales.
I mean, in a way that got your foot in the door and you applied a lot of your already natural skills to what you were doing. But then it also, what you found out is that, selling stuff in the healthcare and selling stuff, as a vendor is also, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, in a way, I hadn't really thought about it, but you're still selling business to business, right? There's a business owner on the healthcare side that needs your product or needs your services. There's a business owner
Right.
over here. It's not life or death, but it's still very similar in a way where you can use these insights. Is there like a fun story that took a while? I know that sometimes I feel like I'm playing these long games and then you finally get that one retailer or that one store owner or chain owner that finally says yes, where you're like, man, I can't believe I finally got that one. Or,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a few accounts that were more difficult than to get into others. So obviously, when you look at smaller sales, like your small independent mom and pop shops and stuff like that, there's less decision makers. They're only ordering like a couple $100 worth of stuff. You get that immediate win right there. But for the long game, yeah, when you work with larger sales or chain locations, corporates, it takes a lot longer. And sometimes you're just kind of hitting a wall trying to get through to a decision maker or talk to someone to let them know about your brand and see a potential interest in carrying you. One thing that I was hitting was like when I was reaching out to some big box stores, and what I did was call locally, like, hey, what is the process to get into your store here? And some of them would direct you to their corporate office or put you in touch with a buyer. And then I would ended up giving the buyer some information and so on. Like for one example, the big box store, and then it was just like dead silence from there. But then I followed up like a couple months later. There's a new buyer in the position, and now we're going to be going into that big box store.
that's one thing that I'd say is like in this business, nothing's forever. Like that decision maker, that manager that you pissed off or that mistake that you made, it's never gonna just stick with you forever. Like the cool thing about this is that we're in route sales, so you can just kind of move around and you're going to see him again next week, or you're going to see him again if you like in a couple of months, and you never know what can happen. Somebody who has been at the store for ages just all of a sudden gets a promotion or gets moved on to another location, or you never know what can happen, right? And that's
Right.
pretty exciting. So you worked, how many brands total did you guys have? I know wine can get pretty like big in portfolio. Were y'all primarily wines or did y'all do spirits as well? Did I read that correctly? Did y'all do a myriad of
Yeah, we
things? Or
do we do wine and spirits, and we have a lot of different products. It's all under our Infinity brand.
okay.
It's more wine than anything else. So we have a product line that's called our signature wines. That's our lowest price tier. And it's more of like your traditional wines, but they're just like wine blends. So like we have a Riesling Moscato, Pinot Noir Zinfandel blend, and those are your more standard introductory wines. Otherwise, then we go into a higher price tier, which we call our ready to drink bottled cocktails. It's usually more unique wines, really more seasonal. And then what we got is like our reserve.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still with the wine brand, Infinity Beverages.
Infinity. I was gonna look that up, and that's out of.
That's out of Eau Claire here. But yeah, we have a lot of different wines and we do experimental ones as well. So one off things that we're just trying out. And then we do have a small selection of spirits. So right now we're revamping our whiskey and we do have a line of vodkas. We just have like a normal vodka. And then we have a chili pepper vodka. That's a spicy vodka that I like to use for Bloody Marys. And then we have a vanilla bean or vanilla espresso vodka. So it's a coffee infused vodka with vanilla beans, which is good served right by itself right over ice. Or you can use it to make different cocktails like an espresso martini and things of that nature.
Do you find it challenging to compete with like the larger brands?
No, we really haven't had trouble getting shelf space, or we're not even trying to really compete against the national brands. We're just staying local and competing against the other local brands there. So when we go into these stores, we're looking for them to have a Wisconsin wine section. So that way it has all the local wines right there. That's usually where people are looking to find us, are in those sections. So that really hasn't been a problem. Occasionally, well, I'll go in an account and the reason they'll turn us down is saying, I just don't have shelf space right now for you. Something has to go in order for me to bring you in. Something that we did to help counter that is we created displays that we can roll out to different retailers. So if you don't have the shelf space, I got a display for you. We put it up, that creates your shelf space. We can put it in right there and fill it. So that's how I counter that, and that's been working really well for us.
On your displays, is it like in like a crate, like a wooden crate, I imagine?
No, what we did is we got barrel displays. So we took in decommissioned barrels with our logo on it, created a second tier onto the barrel, and then that way we can roll it into different retailers and load it up with our product there. And it really catches people attention with the big 53-gallon wood barrel, or we got smaller ones as well that go down to 15 gallons. But yeah, that's all we did. We got some barrels that we were either going to throw out or try and sell, and we repurposed them.
That's awesome. I'm gonna need you to send me some pictures of those because I want to do some like B-roll or like some overlays of that because that's a really interesting idea and a really great way to combat the I don't have shelf space issue. I'm super interested in how people overcome objections and creative ways to get your product on the shelf. And I like what you're doing. It seems like you really know your area as far as trying to get in on the Wisconsin local wine part of the shelf. Was there anything that you were just like, man, this is my secret weapon. This is my go-to. It seems like I have hardly any objections when I go in and I start and I push or sell my product this particular way.
If you're trying to grow in your career, build a personal brand, or become an elite vendor in the CPG space, I have everything that you need at bevedu.co. I've built onboarding, sales training, and career development programs designed to help you get to that next level professionally, all for the cost of an ebook. If you're looking to get to the next level in this industry, but you're not getting the coaching and development that you feel like you deserve, you gotta check out bevedu.co. I'm breaking down 20 years of industry knowledge and trial and error, all in one spot. Let's get back into it.
Yeah, well, what really works for me is, well, obviously I bring in samples and pour samples for people. That really helps the most because then they can taste the wine, see what their own personal preference is for it. What really helps for me is being knowledgeable about the market and the area that I'm in. So I know what the best practices are, what's been working for our current retailers pricing wise. Like if you price it at this is what moves the best. This is what makes you competitive in the local area with other retailers in the area here as well. And then I talk about like how we can help support these accounts as well, the service that we're going to provide. So promotional materials, demos, social media. So it's really about just creating that response. They all just want to know how are we going to service them and help them make the product successful to sell at their store.
Right. It's one thing to get the product in, and then I always say a consultant mindset over a salesman mindset. So as a consultant, you want to go in and make sure that they continue to sell the product. Because if me, I want to go
Right.
back in and sell them some more. Like I don't want to just be a one and done type deal, right? So that's really cool. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you work with the stores within their kind of business model. So understanding exactly how they like to go to market with certain things, whether that be promotional materials, how stuff likes to get displayed on the shelf, how they accept new products whenever they have a new offering, how they do it, how they put it in front of their consumer. I think supporting them with sampling and activations like that is really interesting as well. Is this stuff that you had to learn on the fly, or did the owner of the company kind of say, hey, this is how we're going to go to market? Or did you just learn this over your past 2.5 years of like going to market and trying to figure it out?
A lot of it was learning in the field, really, to understand the market and get that information and talking to people. Being a small business, we don't really have a ton of data and systems that provides us with the information and to break it down like here's what works for the off premise and here's what's going on with this geography. You kind of have to just be in the field and then learn that and remember it yourself. So that's something I take. Like I know what type of wine sell better in the West, yeah. And there's different strategies that they want to hear. So like more of your grocery stores, they're looking for your more bestsellers, everyday movers, lower priced wines. If you're going to a more of a specialty shop, like you're going to a creamery, a boutique, a wine bar, something like that, they're looking for more of that unique, something that stands out and is different from what everybody else has. And then you go to on premise, which is a completely different strategy because their pricing and their goals is different. You go to an on premise, they're not looking for like a 20%, 30% margin. They're looking to do 3 times what you're selling it to them for is their goal. So that makes it a lot difficult for them because you're doing the same wholesale pricing as you would a grocery store. So you got to help break that down.
Do you do better in like a bar setting, or have you found that maybe to me, wine seems like, you have your lower tier, your house wine, and then you have your higher end wine that you can also sell. And to me, that sounds like more of a restaurant strategy, less of
Yeah.
a bar strategy. I don't know. I guess there are beer and wine bars out there, but what do you think that this works best as far as on premise specifically? Where you seeing your best results?
Well, we're really been moving really good, obviously, at wine bars because they sell wine. But I guess really it's more of the restaurants, more like cafes, really, is more like really because it's not a full bar. So
Okay,
they got some bars, maybe they got alcohol or just a beer and wine license. Maybe they do have full liquor, but they're not really a full restaurant. They're kind of got their coffee shop. Maybe they got a few baked goods. Maybe they got just a real simple menu, and that seems to be working the best for us. Are these small
right.
cafes?
That's good, man. We got to know where you're going to fit in and where you're going to have the best chance of success. So that way you can at least be efficient with your time. So whenever you go on prospect or, you're going to somebody, any one of those accounts surprise you? And this is why I ask. I worked with a brand that started a THC water, and we obviously would push like at the dispensaries, at vape shops, and things like the obvious ones, the liquor stores, right? But what really surprised me was just up the road, there was a coffee shop. They had the best sales for this brand out of any one I ever saw, and it completely blew me away. We went and visited that store owner, and they said actually it's kind of like the older clientele, like the retired, and they do it because they have joint issues, and it just helps them relax. But that one really shocked me, because where you would expect, hey, we're going to do really well in a liquor store setting, or obviously a vape shop or a dispensary, to have a coffee shop sell the most product was kind of wild to me. Is there any like situation like that you've had where you're like, well, I didn't see this coming, but they're like my honey hole kind of?
Yeah, I guess really we've been doing really good. Like I said, the cafes, and that's really unexpected because the coffee shops. Not a lot of people know that the coffee shops are selling wine and that, and they've been selling fairly well. Something I do because we have cream-based wines, and that's been something of interest to them. So now you can use that as a creamer. You can make some spiked coffee or some spiked hot chocolate.
Have you helped them with recipe ideas?
Yeah, that really helps for the on-premise, really, is because you'll get locations and say, "Well, we don't sell a lot of wine." Really, the people come in here, they're looking for cocktails or they're looking to buy beer. So you got to come up with other ways, channels for them to sell that wine instead of just pouring by the glass. So now you can pour by the glass. Maybe now you got some options to use these wines to make different cocktails that you can sell your customers as well. And here's some different ideas where you guys can experiment with it too and design your own cocktails. And that's just another way for them to use that. Because otherwise, pouring by the glass, a lot of them, they open a bottle and then you got to do 4 or 5 pours before the bottle goes bad. So you only got like a week or so. But now by doing the cocktails, that just gives you another way to use up that bottle faster. And that's been successful. So we've come up with different things like those cream-based wines. You can make like a White Russian or like that vanilla espresso vodka you can use for espresso martinis, apple pie sangria wine. You can make an apple pie martini or something like that. So just coming up with different ways to use it really helps.
That's cool, man. I imagine we can find a lot of that stuff on your blog.
Yeah, I got cocktails on there. I'm starting with like trying to go with your more popular cocktails that people are familiar with, and then go down into more experimental cocktails or more cocktails that aren't as popular just to give people more ideas. And then each cocktail recipe comes with a couple other variations that you can try as well.
What's your favorite? What's your go-to right now?
Well, around the house here, I've been making quite a few of Moscow mules and mojitos. With it being summer here, the wife really likes the mojito. I really been into gin lately, so different cocktails that use gin is really
Nice.
where I've been going with mine. And I like to go, or well, there's a distillery that I went to, and they had a spruce tip cocktail that I really enjoy. So I like more of that piney feel to my gin there. So that's been one of my favorites. Otherwise, I've been trying to come up with more unique ones, which is hard because there's a lot of different cocktails out there. So it's like almost everybody has all the same variations, and maybe somebody created the same thing and just called it something different. But I do have a cocktail I created. It's called the Evergreen and Ember cocktail, which is a gin cocktail. It's a little more advanced and has a lot of different steps in it. And that's something morning. It's on the site there. It's going to be under the cocktails and then gin cocktails.
Let's go back. Let's go look. Let's see. Cocktails. Scroll up. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I think it's that first one right there. I've been working on updating my website and creating the SEO in that, so I haven't created any content in a little bit, but I'm almost done updating my site there, and I can get back to creating some more recipes.
And it's got gin and what?
Yeah, it's a gin cocktail. I believe Grand Marnier, Marrier, some vermouth. There's like a bunch of different things in there.
You
Oh
got
yeah, that's
London,
right.
lemon juice, vermouth, elderflower liqueur. That kind of went off. Elderflower as a flavor kind of went off recently. Bitters, of course.
Yeah, that's gained popularity. And I think lavender too has become popular from
Yeah, like floral
floral
flavors.
aroma and that. So
As far as updating your site or like coming up with topics and stuff, how do you plan that out?
So when I got started in it, well, before I started creating some content, I did a little bit of research and looking at other people that are creating home brewing content, winemaking, cocktails, and stuff on the different social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and so on. So I was trying to look and see what works for them and what isn't working. And that's why I put more of a focus on cocktail, because that seems to be where more people are interested in is the cocktails. The home brewing and the winemaking isn't getting as much interest. It's more niche. For a while there was the craft home brewing boom that happened, but that's been declining. And even personally, because I'm part of a homebrew club, we're seeing that more and more people are getting out of the hobby there.
Yeah. Well, tell me about me. I started a podcast about being a beverage vendor, so that's pretty niche as well. I'm finding that there's a lot of us, but
Yeah.
it's been like there's no real content for what we do, and everybody. Yeah, I wish people would talk about it a little bit more, like talk about the culture of what it means to like actually be a vendor in this space and stuff. And so then I started it. But yeah, you talk about niche, and it's very difficult to get discovered. So I think that home brewing is very interesting. It's a little bit more difficult than I think. You have to really, really love it and want to try to do it. But I think it would be difficult to the average person. Do you find that it's maybe more or less difficult than people actually think it is?
I think it's less difficult than people think it is. It depends on just how involved you want to get with it and where you want to take it. If you want to continue to grow and try and improve on it and learn and get really technical, you can do that. Otherwise, you can just keep it simple. You buy, I mean, the simplest way is just buying recipe kits. You don't even have to come up with your own recipe. The kit's there. You can buy all the ingredients that are set up for you there. It comes with instructions, usually too. So you do that. You just follow the instructions and it's done. You might make a few mistakes along the way or find what your taste preferences are, but I mean, it's really not that difficult. With the homebrew, like if you start with the extract, all you got to do is put your extract in with the water
Yeah.
to get that malt into the water and make the beer. You just boil that for a while, add some hops, and then you'll transfer that into a fermenter, let it cool down, pitch your yeast and throw an airlock on and just let it ferment. And then from there, you can either transfer it again just to get all the sediment off of it to help clarify it. Or if you don't even have that set up yet, you could just go straight to the bottling. So it can be really simple, and you could do it with very minimal equipment if your budget was limited.
Yeah. What's a startup for something like that? If you were to just buy a kit, how much would that be?
So like recipe kits, it's been a couple of years since I bought them, but they should be somewhere around $25, give or take.
That's crazy. You're not in for too much. How advanced have you gotten with your brewing techniques?
I feel like I gotten pretty advanced, especially working in the industry. I can apply what I'm learning in the winemaking and apply it to home brewing or making mead or anything that I ferment as a beverage.
What's your favorite beverage that you've made so far? Is there one that you've come back to? Or you're like, hey, I've kind of perfected this, or is there one that you like?
Yeah, for a style. Yeah, I got a couple styles that I'm focusing on. That's really my go-to. So it's really a Kolsch Oktoberfest, the Marzen style Oktoberfest, and Doppelbock are my
Okay.
three favorite styles of beer. And I keep going back to those to try and perfect those, which is probably really the best way to go. When I first started, I overdid it and was just trying to make everything I can possible and pump out as much beer as I could. And I made so much beer, there's no way I could even drink it all. So, and we got one guy in the club who's like our most advanced brewer or whatever, and all he did for years was focus on one style and perfecting that. So I narrowed down what styles I want to work on and focus on making those as best as possible. So I think that's the way to go. Otherwise, can get too crazy with it, and now you got all these different styles, and you're trying different things, and they might not work out, or you don't even like that style. So I think it helps to focus on one thing and get good at that.
I would agree. I have the same kind of obsessive mindset too. Whenever I started kind of my blog or my idea on how to do this, I was like all over the place and chasing all sorts of content ideas and chasing all sorts of platforms. Now I'm starting to kind of settle in and understand that it'll be a nice pace and it needs to be a side hustle. I almost if you're not careful, you can turn it into a whole second
Yeah.
life and you can't be awake 24 hours a day and it almost takes away from the hobby if you're not careful, still make sure that you're having fun with it. So,
Yeah, I mean, you can easily become over involved with something like we're doing with the blog and podcast and the internet, because the internet doesn't really ever stop. So, and that's something I kind of learned when I was in healthcare too. I was part of our
yeah.
brand ambassador program. So I got involved with promoting the company and going on LinkedIn and creating posts and helping promote the company. And I got involved with that, and that could become very time consuming making those posts and then communicating with people within the industry. So you got to really control yourself on how much time you're going to spend on that, which then also carries over to
Yeah.
the blog and the website is having that limited time because there's just so much to do. You could spend every waking hour trying to grow the blog there.
As long as it's given back to you. How did you find that balance, man? If I'm being honest, that's something that I'm really struggling with right now is like I'm trying to grow like my coaching program for vendors. I'm trying to help people accelerate their career and I'm doing all these things. And like somehow it became like this full-time content creator, a course creator. I'm, like you said, responding to everybody that responds to my posts, trying to be everywhere all at once on all the different socials. How did you find that balance? I mean, it sounds like you kind of ran into the similar thing, but now you've kind of found your groove and how you do that. What was your mindset shift on how to manage it all?
Yeah, you kind of start getting into a habit of just getting in a routine and how you're going to do things and really scheduling your time and managing your time there is really what's important. So I make sure I have some free time every day to do some things I enjoy and get a break from working on the site or work. So I give myself usually an hour or two every night. I'm watching TV or playing a video game or something or going to do something, going out for drinks. Otherwise, besides that, I'm working on different projects and they're split across the time evenly. So I'm working on the blog or the website. I'm working on eventually I'm going to have some digital products and stuff like that. So then I'm working on creating a book and so on. And I just keep splitting it and go from one thing to the next. I maybe only spend an hour or so a night working on some project. So it takes a while to complete it, but eventually I get there.
Well, yeah, you just little chunks at a time. I imagine you have a big long list. I have a giant, you can't see it, but I have a giant erase board with like my content strategy and all this crazy stuff that I have to get to. And all the new stuff that I'm chasing. So it's a constant thing. It's kind of like running a route, honestly, is what I'm noticing. It's like a living, breathing organism, You just kind of have to roll with the punches. Man, I really appreciate you taking some time with me. Before we wrap up, I did want to push Fermented Curiosities again one more time, fermentedcuriosities.com. And then as we were chatting, we were talking about the company that you work for, which is Infinity Beverages. So I want to make sure that I put them out there too. I think that's pretty cool that you're still in route sales, still pursuing a side hustle and content creation and making this thing that is uniquely you, building your brand within the brand while you're also supporting this smaller brewery. If there's anything else that you would want somebody to take from this conversation, is there a main thing that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I guess really just feel free to check out our website and reach out to me if you have any questions or if you're interested in home brewing, anything like that. I'm pretty open to connecting with people on social media or LinkedIn. And for Infinity Beverages, I'm always around. If you happen to be in Eau Claire, come visit us. Even if you ask for me and I'm available, I'll come out, talk to you, maybe even provide you with a tour. So just come check us out.
Again, I appreciate it, man. Best of luck to you. The website's awesome. I'm going to try some of your cocktail recipes later on this weekend, I think. So
Thanks for having me, Wes.
absolutely, man. Thank you.
If you found this episode valuable, check out one of these episodes. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. Let me know in the comments, what should I talk about next, or who should I talk to next? And if you're interested in becoming an elite vendor, or you're in need of a career coach, check out bevedu.co.